Hi, you are listening to Food Rebels, and I'm your host, AJ Sharp. Food Rebels is the food and drink show dedicated to the exciting world of food founders, challenger brands, people in food and drink who are doing exciting and different things. I like saying taste the rebellion. So we're going to see what we've got today. For the next 30 minutes, we'll be providing a peek behind the curtains on our tastings, food and drink based entertainment for our listeners. Rebecca is laughing at me for being cringe. So we have Rebecca Woollard back in the studio. Welcome back.
Hello, AJ.
Hi. Rebecca is a food editor, writer, stylist, consultant. She runs pop-up kind of cool stuff. You explain it better than me.
Well, I'm predominantly a recipe writer and a food stylist, but I also do home events doing cookery dems and supper clubs from my house in Kent.
And you can find out more about that on the Modern Country Kitchen or Rebecca_Woollard, which is how to find her on Instagram. But you trained at Leith's, didn't you?
I did, yes. Yeah, I trained as a chef, but that was never going to be the career path for me. I did an English degree as well, so I really liked the food writing side of it. And then when I went freelance from food magazines, I kind of branched out into anything else that I could get my hands on to do with food. Amazing.
I always think Leith's looks like the coolest place to go.
I think now they should actually give me shares because I've sent so many people there. It was the best 6 months of my life. Definitely.
That's so
fantastic.
Cool. I remember going in there with my boss, Rupert Ponsonby, who was the expert. I was just the tag along, carrying the bottles. And we did a whole session on beer and food matching. As I say, I was very much the assistant at the time. It was several years ago, but it was really cool. I just remember sitting there thinking, I wish I was one of the students.
I remember Rupert. He put rubber gloves on and lipstick.
Yes.
Tell us how outside factors influence the taste of things.
Absolutely. It's my old boss.
Yeah.
Best boss I ever had. He was hilarious. Such good fun. So today we are talking about drinks. We're talking about kind of grown-up drinks.
Lovely.
Not necessarily alcoholic, but grown-up drinks. Do you drink? Do you drink water?
I drink everything, yes. Yeah. But there are times when I don't want to have an alcoholic drink. Especially now I live in the country, I have to drive a lot more than I used to. And yeah, I think having good, not too sweet, non-alcoholic alternatives is really important.
It's really key, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were talking before we came on air about, for me, the one time when I really stopped drinking alcohol for an extended period was when I was pregnant with my kids. And
Same.
Just getting really bored with going, we've got some lovely elderflower, and going, oh, great, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, non-alcoholic rosé that basically is like lemonade.
Oh, yeah.
You have to drink the whole bottle because no one else is drinking it.
Or Schlur or something.
Oh, yeah.
No, so we have got some really cool experts in the studio today who are experts in making really nice alcoholic... No, not alcoholic. Got that completely wrong. Non-alcoholic drinks for grown-ups, but not necessarily just for grown-ups. Let me introduce you. We've got Kristal Baker from Luxwells. Can you tell us a little bit about Luxwells?
Hi, AJ. So Luxwells is a botanical infused water beverage range. It's created to encourage better hydration.
Ah, amazing. Sounds really good. And then Zak Tozer from Zak's Kombucha. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Hello. Yes, I brew kombucha. People typically know of kombucha as a health drink. My whole take is flavor first. So I'm just trying to make something that's super, super delicious and full of integrity. I don't cut any corners, and it's based on a closed loop bottle scheme as well.
What does that mean?
Basically, my bottles are like an asset rather than your typical cost of sales. So I not only do I appreciate my customers bringing them back, but I actually buy them back off of them. So I reward people for it, and the same for all my wholesale clients as well. I don't have any middleman in my distribution as well, so I do everything myself, which is quite laborious, but worth it.
But very cool, very much like the old-fashioned way of doing things.
Milkman concept is kind of the idea, yeah.
We have 3 of Zak's bottles sitting on our kitchen bench waiting to go back to our local deli that stocks your drinks.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So does it work then even through third parties?
Yeah, I mean,
it works for me.
I
I buy coffee from the same deli that stocks Zak's drinks, so every time I go in and get some coffee, if we've got bottles that we've used, then we take them back.
Amazing. What's the deli called?
Nutmeg in Tenterden.
Oh, nice.
It's really lovely.
It's one of my first stockists.
Was it? Yeah, they're great.
Grant and Gemma are awesome.
Yeah.
Tenterden is right in the middle of Kent, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Very beautiful market town.
That sounds really cool. So, Kristal, Tell me a little bit about your journey of why, how and where you came to be making these incredible drinks.
Okay, so I have never really enjoyed drinking water. I've always found it to be quite bland and unexciting. And when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had really bad morning sickness. It was never ending for about 6 months. And obviously the prime thing when you're expecting is to eat well and maintain your hydration. And, I was constantly trying to drink more water. I had this big jug, the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It was just driving me insane. And then I started trying to find other alternatives. So I'd maybe have more smoothies, or I'd have maybe more herbal teas, but maybe cool them down. And again, just finding the process quite tedious. And then once I had her, again, you still need to maintain, especially if you're feeding, which I was. And so it was just this constant 18 months this stress with water every single day. And, I always knew the benefits of it. I just found the taste to be really boring. And so then I started having other water infusions, some of the main ones that you would expect, infused with water, fruit, for example.
Oh, yeah.
And I just always found that there was sort of a bit of a funny aftertaste when I was having these water infusions. And so then my other go-to was cordials. But then when they did the sugar tax and they removed obviously all the sugar that was no longer permitted to be in there, I realised there was such a difference in the taste. And then I realised how much sugar must actually have been in these products that you're consuming. Even diluting it with a lot of water, it still has so much sugar in it that it needs to be removed. And then I just found that the taste then was unpalatable to me. Tasted almost sometimes like medicine, very mild medicine. And I just thought, why is this so stressful? There must be an alternative. And I continued looking and I just couldn't find anything that I found to be adequate. And then one day I was thinking, what would need to be in water for me, not just to drink it, but actually look forward to drinking it. And I just thought, something luxurious to make me feel special, especially I'm at home, I'm on maternity leave. There's not really much luxury happening when you're covered in baby, And so I just thought, roses. And I thought, oh, that sounds nice. And then I started looking for rose-infused water. And there are certain products of rose water, but a lot of it was more sort of for your skin or maybe to use in, cooking, not really the ones that you could drink. And so I just started experimenting with flowers myself, with roses. And so I found with different roses, some are quite good for colour, some are quite good at taste, and then some of them just didn't really do too much. And so I just started fusing different roses, and then I found composition that I was quite happy with, and I just was drinking that myself at home. And then just had a bit more time while I was on maternity leave to start thinking, and then I just thought, why not give it a go? And then that was sort of how the idea began.
Amazing. I'm just looking at the side now. So I've just poured out for everybody a little bit of this. It's called Rose and Honey.
That's correct.
What did you think of that, Rebecca?
The first thing I thought when I smelt it was, this smells like my rose garden. That sounds very grand. It's basically a flower bed of roses. But so you definitely got the proper essence of roses in there. It has a sort of flavour of tea of it as well. Is that the infusion, or is there...
It is, yeah. So it's the infusion, and as you said, you can smell the scent of it. I wanted to have a real sensory experience when having these beverages, because sometimes I would find, you might have, for example, even if it was a herbal infusion and it smells wonderful, it's raspberries or it's strawberries and it smells delicious, and then you drink it, and I always found it was a anticlimax. The taste didn't match the strength of the scent. And so I just thought, it should tell a story that matches what it smells like. And so that was sort of where the process came from. So I've made an effort to make sure that when you unscrew the lid, you start to get a story already, because you taste things before you taste them. It's your, what it looks like and what it smells like. And so I really wanted to sort of...
You eat with your eyes
precisely,
first, don't you?
yeah. And I think because when I had that idea, and I'd be saying to my friends and family, what do you think of, flowers in water? And I'd see everybody's eyes would wander off like, that sounds awful. And, how will I tell her nicely that what she's thinking about sounds terrible? And I'm like, okay, they don't get it. And what I had in my mind was this, but I realised I had to get it made and put it in front of people for it to make sense what it is that I'm seeing in my head. And so I just thought it's a new concept on its own anyway, botanical infused water. So I need to, make it smell nice when people first take off the lid, to be inclined to then want to taste it. And so that's sort of how you can smell what it tastes like. It does smell, as you said, like what you think of when you think of each of the flowers. But I've then made sure to try to pair them all well so that they don't taste too punchy and they still sort of come subtly. And so that's sort of where the process of, how we steep them is done, and how long for, and so that it's not too rosy, but it's not enough. And for example, with the rose flavour, I use 3 different roses. So one is for the scent, one is for the taste, and one is for the colour, so that you're really kind of getting that, full experience, but also then it is natural. It was a very important thing for me to have it be a natural product, because a lot of the other things that you're consuming, sometimes you believe that you're ingesting something that's good for you, and then maybe you read on the back, or you find out, later in the news, oh, these products really are not good for you, and, they've replaced some ingredient with this, and they've substituted it out for something else, and that's a new problem. And so I just wanted to make sure everything was as natural as could be.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just drinking the lavender one, and it just feels like being on holiday in France.
It really does, doesn't it?
Thank you.
I can see it's great taste, 2-star award-winning as well.
It is.
Which is no mean feat. Rebecca and I judge together sometimes for great taste, and it's not easy to get it.
No, it's really not. No, so that's very impressive.
Really beautiful. I was actually I was gifted 4 bin sacks full of lavender yesterday by one of my customers, which is amazing. And so they were in my van last night, and I just took them out this morning. And the whole thing is just smells of lavender. It's amazing.
That's why you're so chill when you came in.
After a very long weekend, yes. That's what's helped me. And this really it's like I'm drinking the smell that has been of my van, which has been a really lovely thing in the last day. It's really, you've really captured it really beautifully.
Thank you very
So is
much.
lavender kombucha coming next?
Potentially. Well, I've experimented with it once before in the very early days, and I wasn't sure. I was thinking about it, but now I know how well you can capture that lavender essence. That's really inspiring. That is so beautiful.
I mean, the lavender was my most difficult one to make, and even myself, I've never been a lavender fan, so that was a complete challenge for me. And I know people always think, oh, lavender, think of their grandma's handbag, and lavender can be quite potent.
Quite divisive.
Precisely. And so that was a lot of work to get it to not be too punchy. So I kind of mixed it with the pear. Initially, wasn't really going to focus on fruit, because I wanted the brand to be predominantly about floral experiences and stepping away from the usual fruit infused with water. But I found with the pear, it's not really commonplace, maybe in drinks, infusions or even juice. But I just found that was a soft taper. So you still get the lavender, but it's not so punchy at the end. It's just subtle enough.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
there's some fruit notes coming through, but it's not sweet.
No.
But it sort of tastes sweet.
Yes.
But it's not actually sweet at all.
It's
very
the pear.
clean.
Yeah. just
Yeah, it's not actually, if you'd put those 3 flavours down in front of me, I think I would have said the lavender one would be the one I like least, but
yes,
it might be my favourite.
It's actually our best seller.
Really?
And so whenever I'm doing events or sampling, I expect a rose to be the best seller, hands down, and it's actually been the lavender. And so what I find is I either get people to say, oh, I love lavender, can I try that one first? Or I get people that say, no, I don't like lavender. And I'm like, I promise you, this is the one that you definitely need to try. It's not going to be the way that you imagine. And 9 times out of 10 they say, oh gosh, you're right, and I do like that one. So it's a personal pleasantry to me that I can get people who don't like lavender, like myself, to actually enjoy it.
Oh, it's lovely. And the hibiscus and mint I've just tried is really beautifully clean, really cuts through your palate.
Yeah.
Very refreshing. It's really interesting. So things like the hibiscus and mint, how are you sourcing these kind of things?
So in terms of the mint, so it's all fresh, the mint, so it's fresh sweet mint that I source, UK. Same thing with the hibiscus flowers. They come dried, but they're real and they're natural, and so that's sort of how I do the process with it. But it's very important, particularly as well with the mint, for example, that it is fresh, because you still get that fresh zestiness to it. And hibiscus in itself can be quite punchy. I find of all the 3 flavours, that's probably the one that, sort of has the most zing. And so I use a sweet mint, so you still get that freshness and it still cuts the palate nicely, and it's still quite refreshing, but it's soft in terms of not being so sharp because it is a sweeter mint.
Amazing. And they're all kind of very low in calories and things like that, aren't they?
Yes.
That's fantastic. Zak, I wanted to ask you a little bit about sourcing and where you get your ingredients from, because do you want to just tell us a little bit about kombucha? I know it's a tea, and I've actually heard from you before how it's made, but can you just explain it?
Sure thing. Yeah. So, kombucha at its core is tea, sugar, and water. So typically what you tend to find out on the market from most brands, for obvious reasons, is trying to keep costs down, and it's all about the sort of flavouring afterwards. So you generally find it's quite a cheap tea and sugar, and then it's about the flavouring that they put with it, which it can often be sort of concentrates and such like that. It's quite, it's a fairly exotic drink, so it can often come in quite exotic flavours as well. In my early days, I had access to this amazing tea, which is forest-friendly tea. It's grown in Thailand. It is literally some of the most sustainable tea you can get, working with small communities there, and it's like non-monocrop. It's interesting how we're a tea drinking nation and we know very little about tea, myself included, before I started this business. And then I use organic cane sugars, which, again, I wanted the sustainability of ingredients was just really important to me. So did look into a lot, and I thought about using British sugar, beet sugar, which I thought would be cool because it's British. And I even considered there is a British tea grower down in Cornwall. I thought about that for a while as well. But those reasons why I decided against that, and realised actually the most sustainable choice was organic cane sugar. It's a lot better than British beet sugar in terms of its sustainability. Plus, I use partially unrefined cane sugars as well. So you get some of the natural minerals still in there, which adds a certain caramelly flavour to it as well, which I think is really pleasant. And then beyond that, everything else that I use is seasonal. So I do seasonal flavours that come and go throughout the years. And the whole concept of that really is just to highlight all the amazing flavours that we have right here on our doorstep, and often kind of showcase flavours that are really unexpected as well. So
like what?
Some stuff that I've done. One that's coming around again at the moment, which is a personal favourite and has always gone down very well, is the fig leaf. So obviously we grow a lot of figs in this country ornamentally and in people's gardens and such, but people don't realise the leaf is actually amazing.
Is it?
Yeah, it's super coconutty.
So delicious.
garden.
Yeah.
You should make ice cream as well.
Yeah.
No, really?
It's like more coconutty than coconut. It's amazing.
You're joking?
No, and you get a slight...
They're
sort of
great
green
big
fig being
leaves,
from it.
aren't they? Like
Yeah.
dinner plates.
That's right. So that one comes out like a pina colada. So I do it without tea. I do a lot of my seasonal flavours. They're what I call herbal, so brewed without tea, and that's just because I'm a real purist and I really want to focus in on that ingredient and just sort of showcase and celebrate that and just build complexity upon that flavour. So another one that I've done recently, I did a very small batch of, but I'm going to do more next year, was garden waste tomato leaf. which I've got half a bottle of that here because that was all I had left on the bottling line the other day, and it's gone out very, very quickly.
Oh, I'm glad you've brought that because that
Yeah.
sounds delicious.
It's quite
love
cool.
the smell of tomato pie.
Yeah,
Same.
So good.
It sort of tastes like the smell of a luscious greenhouse in the summer.
Yeah,
Gorgeous.
But it's actually really cucumbery as well. But that's one
Can
similar
we
to
try it
Yeah,
while
go
we're
ahead.
talking about it?
Similar to what you were saying about people at the markets or events, whatever. That's one that since I've only had it for the last few weeks, but people are like, oh, I don't know, tomato. That sounds weird.
Yeah.
Expect it to be like tomatoey or have these real sort of set expectations of it, but actually it's just super cucumbery. It's got a bit of lime. It's really herbaceous.
Delicious.
It's got this quite sort of light, and like I said, it's got this sort of greenhouse vibe, which I think is really quite delightful.
Oh, that is like very cucumbery.
Yeah. But we've got the first batch of elderberry coming up, foraged elderberry, which is always exciting because it's a beautiful red.
My son's favourite, I think, possibly because it's red.
Nice, yeah.
He really likes
It's one for the eyes, definitely.
It's interesting. So your kids will drink it.
When we go to Water Lane Market where Zak sells his kombuchas, he's the kid in the queue going, "Mummy, can we have some kombucha?"
Overheard at Waitrose.
Yeah, exactly. But at Water Lane you sort of fit in, so it's fine. No, he absolutely loves it. And when we went to the first market, we tasted all of the different flavours, and I did wonder what he'd think, because there is a sort of slightly funky fermenty flavour in there.
It's sour tartness.
He loved it. He loved it because I think because it's got the sugar in it and the slight fizz, that it does sort of make it a bit more palatable for children.
The little ones are very keen.
Yeah.
My favourite review ever was a 2-year-old who tried 5 different flavours. A friend of mine's son at the brewery. They came by, tried the 5 that I had on at the time, and I got a double thumbs up for every one.
Oh.
And apparently that's very rare. He doesn't give the double thumbs up easily. And so for all 5, I was like, yes.
Excellent.
Straight on my website.
This one's lovely though.
Delicious.
This tomato leaf. I'm actually going for a second go on that one.
I think my cup is leaking.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
But yeah, you get all that depth of flavour from the fermentation, which is something that I think is really cool.
Sorry to be stupid, but do you mean literally the tomato leaves?
Literally tomato leaves, yeah. So they're from Rebel Farmer Ed, who's 2 miles down the road from me. He's got a market garden there and grows sort of no-dig, amazing veggies. So we often do sort of collaborations with stuff that he's growing, and he grows amazing tomatoes. And these are just literally cuttings from his tomato plants quite late in the season, really. It was about a month ago, maybe.
So it would otherwise go on the compost heap.
Exactly. Yeah. They would literally just for the compost heap. And it's the same way I do the fig leaf as well. So I use end of the season. I'm actually going to try and go over to my friends this week. They've got a few massive fig trees. And so all the fig leaves are turning at the moment. And so then we take them, rather than them going on the compost, we just strip them all off. And then I'll take them back and make some deliciousness out of it. And I'll always give them a few bottles as well. So
Lovely.
It's a nice trade.
thank you. Yeah. It's
Good countryside trading.
Exactly. That's how
I
do it.
can't believe how tomatoey that tastes. And I just wouldn't have expected the green leaves to taste like the red fruit tastes.
Yeah, it's I actually
Incredible.
think that hibiscus and mint is really accentuating the tomato, the aftertaste of that, which is
Oh, do
really
you think?
delightful. It's like accentuating the tomato notes in it more than I've ever actually tasted before.
Oh, wow.
It's great, good pairing.
We've got
Great
alchemy going on
pairing.
here.
Yeah.
What else have we got here?
So then we
What's
got
this one?
then we've got my 2 other core flavors. So the sparkling oolong is kind of the main. So that's the celebration of that amazing tea that I mentioned.
Should we have that one
Let's go for that
before
one
the
first.
ginger and turmeric? 'Cause
Yeah,
that feels
ginger
like
and
it might be more
turmeric's
punchy.
Totally. So the sparkling oolong is literally just that forest-friendly oolong tea, the organic cane sugars, and it's just a celebration of that. Nothing else needed, just to showcase like how beautiful kombucha can be in its purest form. So yeah, it's got a lovely, really appley. It's got a citrusness to it. It's got sort of tropical fruit notes in there, which always kind of vary. Sometimes it can be sort of melony, other times it can be more sort of mango. There's subtle notes, but pineapple sometimes and that kind of thing. And then you get this lovely sort of citrus acidity from it as well, which also varies from batch to batch. That's the beautiful thing about working with live microbes, is it's forever changing, especially throughout the year, but even just batch to batch in the middle of summer when things can be, say, fairly consistently warm, it still changes, and you might have one batch is really lemony, the next is quite limey, the next one's quite grapefruity, and then the next one's sort of like clementine.
And that literally depends on essentially pollen counts, what's in the air, what live microbes are flying around.
Totally. And I'm sure there must be something to do with like atmospheric pressure or something weird that, it's just kind of beyond what we can actually feel and sense.
So how's the washout summer been? Have you found it's made a difference? There's terrible weather we've had.
It's been actually fine. What has made a difference is always this transitional moment between the seasons, which we've just had last week, where, again, like I said, the microbes just know. It's like hasn't felt massively different. It's definitely cooled down a bit for us, but the microbes just said no. So last week,
not doing it.
Yeah, all my fermentations have been consistently about 7 days for pretty much the whole of this year, at least since summer. And all of a sudden, just nope. At 7 days, wasn't ready. 8 days, not ready. 9 days, not ready. 10 days, not ready.
Really?
And it's just been, it's totally different. The flavour of it was completely different. It was really, really caramelly. In the end, I was there on Saturday night until about 10 o'clock in the evening, bottling up for my markets yesterday and deliveries over in Margate Way, because I needed some stock to go with. But it was it's still delicious, but it was slightly sweeter than usual because I just had to pull it in the end, ever so slightly less tart, which I'm always aiming for it to be drier. So I was like, I had to, for my integrity's sake, I had to go out and tell all of my customers, it's slightly sweeter than usual. I'm really sorry. But
It's a real product, isn't
exactly.
it? It's a real product when you're working with live cultures and all the rest of it. So it's going to change, isn't it?
Yeah, and people love that and they get it, which is great. But I still have, obviously, as producers, we want to create something that's so really consistent, and you're always striving for that. But there's this kind of beautiful thing when you're working with a live product. You can really try and control it as much as you can, but it actually has the power, and there's only so much you can do. And sometimes you have to just kind of like be okay with it and lean into it and just be like, okay, that's just what's happening.
Oh, it's amazing. It's really cool. What do you think of the two different drinks? Can you see different times that you would use them?
Yeah, one of the things I like about kombucha is that I feel like it's doing you good as well, because of obviously all the live cultures. And I feel like the Luxwells Botanicals ones, that maybe to be like an aperitif. Sort of 6 o'clock, you have them over ice, and because they are quite strongly infused, which is lovely, but it makes you want to sip them rather than down them, which is, I suppose, the difference between a soft and an alcoholic drink is that you feel like you savour an alcoholic drink a bit more. I think that would be a nice aperitif for me in the garden.
Yeah, gorgeous. I can see that being a really nice like lunchtime drink, the Luxwells.
Me personally, which is what I relay when people are sampling as well, I like to have the hibiscus and mint if I'm looking for a bit of energy. I like it to be quite zesty. And I tend to like to have the lavender maybe in the evening when I'm wanting to wind down. And the rose, just if I'm feeling quite pink and just, flowery.
Watching Barbie.
Yes.
Perfect.
And I think I love when we go to Water Lane, especially I love ordering your kombuchas with lunch, because I think they do make a really nice thick, because of maybe the gentle fizz I find goes really nicely with food.
Yeah, that's my whole kind of take, is to be sort of enjoyed as a non-alcoholic beverage, to be enjoyed like an alcoholic beverage, but not without
drive after.
Yeah, without the negative hang-ups of that.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And both of these are really lovely alternative options, aren't they? If you're not drinking for whatever reason, they're just nice alternative options that aren't always elderflower or cordial or squash, which is fantastic. I can't believe it, but I feel like I want to just keep chatting, but we have run out of time again. But I just want to say a massive thank you so much to Kristal and Zak for coming in.
Thank you.
It's been fantastic to have you in. And same to you, Rebecca. Thank you for coming in.
Thank
I hope you'll join us again next week.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.